What would you do if the people meant to protect your community turned your lifeline into a grave? Out here on the sprawling plains of Montana, where the horizon stretches endless and the wind carries secrets older than the hills, I thought I'd found peace. My name is Elias Carver, and my ranch, Whispering Pines, was my sanctuary, a 200-acre dream of open fields, grazing cattle, and a well that bubbled with crystal water, the heart of my land. But peace is fragile, and greed has a way of poisoning even the purest springs. This is the story of how my neighbors, cloaked in petty authority, tried to bury me and how I fought back, only to find that vengeance leaves a bitter taste. It began with the Karen Hills Homeowners Association. Don't let the name fool you. This wasn't some suburban cul-de-sac with manicured lawns. Karen Hills was a loose coalition of landowners, a mix of old ranchers and new money types who'd bought up plots to play cowboy. They'd formed the HOA to protect property values, they said, but it was a power grab dressed in bureaucracy. I'd kept my distance, paying my dues but skipping their meetings. My ranch was self-sufficient, my well a gift from the earth, and I didn't need their rules to live my life. Trouble brewed when the HOA president, Marjorie Tate, set her sights on my land. Marjorie was a wiry woman with a smile that never reached her eyes, the kind who'd argue over a fence-post's shadow. She'd moved from the city, bought a plot half the size of mine, and decided she was the queen of Karen Hills. Her latest obsession was the aquifer beneath our lands. My well tapped into it, deep and reliable, while others struggled with shallow, seasonal springs. Marjorie wanted control she thought she could buy with HOA fees and intimidation. Started small. Notices about unapproved fencing. Fines for excessive livestock noise. I ignored them, tossing their letters into the fire. But then came the day I found my well capped with cement. I'd been away, checking cattle on the far ridge, and returned to find the pump silent, the ground around it torn up, and a slab of gray concrete sealing my water source. A note, pinned under a rock, read, "Noncompliance with HOA water usage regulations. Well decommissioned per vote. Signed, Marjorie Tate." Rage doesn't describe it. That well was my lifeblood, me cattle, my crops, my home depended on it. I stormed to the HOA office, a prefab trailer on Marjorie's land, and found her sipping coffee with 2 board members, smug as you please. "You had no right," I roared, slamming the note on her desk. She didn't flinch. "Elias, your well was draining the aquifer. We voted to protect the community. You should have attended the meeting." "Draining the aquifer?" I laughed, bitter. "My well's been here 50 years, dug by my grandfather. Yours barely wets the dirt." She shrugged, citing some hired expert who'd claimed my well was the problem. I knew the truth. Marjorie wanted my water rights. Her land was parched, her dreams of a vineyard fading with every dry summer. My well was her ticket to profit, and she'd buried it under lies. I could have fought in court, but lawsuits take years, and my ranch was dying now. I needed water, and I needed it fast. That's when I met Clara. A twist in the tale I didn't see coming. Clara Ruiz was a state hydrologist, sent to inspect the aquifer after I filed a complaint. She was sharp, with dark eyes that saw through bullshit and a quiet strength that made you listen. She wasn't part of the HOA's world. She was an outsider, like me, but with a badge and a clipboard. Over coffee at my kitchen table, she pored over maps and data, her brow furrowed. "Your well's output was stable for decades," she said. "Their expert report is a fabrication. Marjorie's land isn't even on the same vein." Clara's words lit a spark. She wasn't just a bureaucrat. She cared about the truth. Together, we dug deeper, pulling records, testing water tables. Clara found evidence the HOA had bribed their expert, a shady consultant named Greg Vance, to falsify data. Greg was Marjorie's cousin, a detail she'd buried under layers of paperwork. Clara's discovery was a weapon, but it wasn't enough to undo the cement in my well. I needed something bigger, something to hit them where it hurt. The idea came from Clara's offhand comment. "The state controls water rights out here. One word from my office, and we can shift the flow. Montana's water laws are strict, and my well, though capped, still held legal priority. I could petition the state to redirect the aquifer's flow, cutting off the shallow wells feeding Karen Hills. It was a long shot, but Clara knew the right people. She warned me, though, her voice soft but firm. This could ruin them, Elias. Not just Marjorie. Everyone. I didn't care. Or I thought I didn't. I spent sleepless nights imagining Marjorie's face when her taps ran dry, her vineyard wilting under the sun. Clara filed the petition, and within weeks, the state issued an order. The aquifer's flow would prioritize my land, effectively starving the HOA's wells. I stood by my ruined well, watching their sprinklers sputter and die, their lawns browning, their dreams crumbling. Marjorie came to my gate, screaming, threatening lawsuits, but the state's order was ironclad. I'd won, or so I thought. The twist came not from Marjorie, but from Clara. She showed up one evening, her face pale, holding a letter. "I didn't tell you everything," she said, her voice trembling. "The aquifer's weaker than I thought. Redirecting it, it's not just hurting the HOA, it's draining the whole valley. Farms, ranches, even the town downstream, all losing water." I stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. My victory wasn't just against Marjorie. It was against everyone. Families I'd known for years, kids who'd played in my fields, old ranchers who'd shared my grandfather's whiskey, they were all paying for my revenge. Clara had tried to warn me, but I'd been too consumed by anger to listen. Now the valley was dying, and my hands were as dirty as Marjorie's. I could have reversed the order, fought to restore the aquifer's balance, but it would have meant admitting defeat, letting Marjorie win. Pride is a cruel master. Instead, I doubled down, sinking money into drilling a new well, deeper, costlier, while the valley withered. Clara left, her final words haunting. "You're not the man I thought you were, Elias." She'd been my ally, maybe more, but I'd pushed her away, just as I'd pushed away everyone else. Months later, the HOA dissolved, Marjorie's vineyard a dust bowl, her house foreclosed. The other ranchers moved away, their lands sold to developers who didn't care about water or history. Whispering Pines stood alone, my new well pumping just enough to keep me going. But the fields were quieter now, the air heavier. I'd won the battle, but the cost was everything: me neighbors, my community, my soul. One night, I stood by the old well, the cement slab cracked under the stars. I thought of my grandfather, who dug it with his own hands, believing in a legacy of shared abundance. I turned that legacy into a weapon, and the valley paid the price. The wind whispered, carrying the ghosts of what was lost. I'd shut off their water, but I drowned myself in the process. ND.